This week you are reading Chapter 2 in the textbook, which deals with England and its American colonies in the 1600s and early 1700s. The chapter begins with giving some background about England. In particular, it discusses the British political system and how it was unique from other systems in Europe. In France and Spain, the kings and queens held the bulk of the power. In England, the monarch shared the power with Parliament, some of whose members were elected. So here you can see the king, and here surrounding these central tables is Parliament. So Parliament was a legislature. Some, not all of its members were elected. So there wasn't full democracy in England. Not everybody was voting, but they were on their way towards it. This idea about government and representative government is brought to the British colonies in North America. The chapter also describes the religious conflicts. Across the Western world, there was an ongoing conflict between Catholics and Protestants, and this was sparked by the Protestant Reformation. In England, a Protestant country, the textbook describes the conflicts between various Protestant groups. Some of the Protestant groups who were challenging the Church of England, like Quakers, Pilgrims, and Puritans, came to settle in America. In this image, we see the Pilgrims arriving at Plymouth, and the Pilgrims were known as separatists because they wanted to separate from England and separate from the Church of England. The textbook then proceeds to methodically describe each of the major British colonies in North America. It compares and contrasts their governments, their economies, and their religions, and describes how they were settled and how each of them grew. The textbook then goes on to explain the many ways in which Indians and Europeans interacted, and this included a broad spectrum from some groups who peacefully traded with Indians and created alliances, and other groups who were frequently at war. And finally, the chapter concludes with a description of colonial labor forces. There was a lot of work to be done in the colonies, and through much of the 1600s, that work was mostly done by indentured servants. Indentured servants were Europeans who were contracted to a master for a certain period of time, usually 4 to 7 years. And during that time, the master controlled many aspects of their lives. For instance, they couldn't travel. It wasn't like a job that you could quit. The master could chain you together, could handcuff you like you see in this image. The master could whip you or beat you. But after those 4 to 7 years, you were free. By the late 1600s and the early 1700s, fewer and fewer Europeans were willing to come as indentured servants. And the labor force then is dominated by African slaves who are forcibly brought to the New World. And this is a topic that we'll be dealing with extensively in the class, and your papers will be about slavery. So have a great week. Make sure to get started with your work early in the week, and always remember, plan for a problem. Just in case you have a technical difficulty, start ahead of time to give yourself time to fix the problem. And have a great week.